So again, guys, we're getting better and better at these interviews, these podcasts, whatever you want to call it. Every time we do it, I feel like we get a little bit better.
Better than where we started.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is my first one, so
yeah.
finally get to get in one. You guys been traveling all over, interviewing everybody,
and I'll tell you,
that's what Joe said. He said, "Hey, this is the first one we're gonna do with Josh."
And we're gonna kind of get into it.
The polo has some dust on it this morning.
We're gonna kind of get into it, and I guess we're gonna kind of back up and see, talk a little bit about what got us to this point. Because Joey, I'm telling you, you've been hustling, you've been grinding hard. You got such good, a lot of goals, a lot of visions on how you want this promotion to go, how you want to be involved with the fight game and stuff. And you kind of brought it to the table, but a lot of people don't understand that story and how you got here. So military veteran, right? You served overseas.
Yeah, two times, and then
right,
stuff happened, had to get out, and medically wise or whatever, and been blessed. So.
Right, but you came back to the States, right? And did you immediately start training MMA?
No, whenever I come back to the States, but like I said, got messed up overseas, doing some stuff. Spent some time medically, I guess, with the hospitals and stuff, and then after that, pretty much just trying to get rid of anger and all that. As a kid, I grew up boxing and all that, which is why I love the stand up. But then once I got out the hospital and stuff and actually moved back home, I started training. Joe Anacona's, Dixon's, coming trainers with you guys sometimes down in Slidell, just traveling around. And if you know of any of them gyms, I mean, they, like y'all said, y'all grew up together now. We ain't know anybody,
Right.
And then if you know Joe Anacona's, you go over there, just get beat up. Dixon's, you're just going to get beat up. But the thing about it is, you're going to be tough after you leave.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Well, I think every gym has that specialty or something that they kind of bring to the table. And like you said, that's just the way they were brought up. That's the way they were trained, and that's the way they, So.
And no, they had nothing against. I mean, they got great guys. They had Ron Jacobs who fought Derek back in the day. They had Cody Bro, Charlie Bro. Had a bunch of guys teaching. Myron Goddard,
Myron Godet,
bunch of guys teaching and stuff. And then even whenever you go over to Dixon's Dungeon, I mean, they had DJ Triplet, great.
Still work with DJ. Shout out my boy DJ, Gulfport Fire Department.
Great Muay Thai coach. And what's funny is looking at him, you don't think you can, but he'd kick you inside of the head, standing right there.
Absolutely.
Good guy.
Great guy.
So, I mean, a lot of guys. And the funny thing about it in this sport is you meet these people, and after you get done fighting, some people still hold that grudge, but for the most part, it's like a brotherhood. You might not never know them, but once you go and get in that fight with them, after that, you talk to them, call them on the phone, different stuff like that, and you see it within the guys that fight for us, you've seen it, and I mean, I'm pretty excited, and I mean, we've been blessed without a doubt,
But you always, that's probably, you could quote Joey Ford. I mean, that's one thing he's always going to say is we've been blessed, and that's something that, I've seen, and I think really, really cool is you're taking some of the blessings that you've got in your life and what you've learned and what you've been able to build as a man, with your businesses and stuff, and you're ready to, I guess you could say spread those blessings. And like, I don't know, man, just for you to say, like I said, I admire you. You said, hey man, we've been blessed. We've been blessed. I admire that because that mindset I think is, very cool to have.
It comes though. You got to think whenever I come back from overseas, I didn't, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I said, I was doing stuff that I never should have done, but God has a way of bringing you back and turning you around and getting you in the direction you need to be.
So let's hold it up for a second. I don't want to get too far ahead because we got to stay in line with the story. So, and that's kind of where we're just kind of talking about where we met with the cross training. I know you were kind of training with Harris just a little bit with next level training and under David Patton with those guys. And I think that's where me and Josh finally kind of got to know you and kind of got to meet you a little bit through the fight game. You guys would come out to train with Slidell. But I think I started training. I started training here at Gold Dragon in about 2007, and you came a couple years after, maybe a year or two after you started training. We were all kind of competing, around the 145, 135 weight class. All three of us were kind of competing around the same weight class. And
Lee, you know.
and so
35
that's what
bases.
I tell you, and like I'll say it in front of Josh, I'll say it in front of Joey. But man, I really thought Joey was a crazy man the first couple times I met him because he would come and train with us and cross train with us. But like Joey's a competitor, man. He's just like at heart, he's just a competitor. And so like he would come in and cross train with us a couple times, but then next thing you know, he's like, man, me and you should fight on that next card. And I'm just like, man, Joey, like I thought we was boys, but like Joey's just a competitor. So like I'm just, the first couple times I met him, I'm like, Joey's crazy, man. Like he just always wants to fight. He always wants to fight. I always thought it was funny, I'm just like, man, like man, I thought we were just training together. This guy wants to fight me, So I always thought that was kind of funny. But it's just, it's just your competitive nature, And so I always thought that was kind of cool, kind of funny. But anyway, so we met back in the day. So shoot, that was probably what, 08, 09, maybe
Something
2010, something like that. Um, and obviously we all kind of went our own ways. We kept training, whatever. We all kind of had our thing going on. You went out, you started building your businesses up, and we kind of got reconnected through Dennis LaBruza. How did you get to know Dennis and start training with Dennis?
The funny thing is, Dennis, I actually got told many a times about him, and I've never met him, never done anything with him. And if I think he called me out of the blue because somebody told him and he wanted help training, so I started going over there and spar with him. I mean, I'll tell you this, the funniest thing ever, I'm out of shape from where I used to be. And whenever we started sparring, I keep up with him and all of that. And as Dennis progressed, I'm like, dude, I can't keep. Yeah.
He got good fast.
I mean, he puts all this time into it, which most people, I'll be honest with you, most people come to the gym an hour a day. That fool's going 3 or 4 times.
Sure.
Yeah. And so he progressed quickly. And then just my cardio, I mean, you can't keep up. I mean, he's got cardio for days to be a big guy and all of that.
It's very hard to train like recreationally and come in and compete with a guy, like Dennis, if you're only training a couple times a month or a few times a month, it's very
it shows in his fights. There's guys that train every day that can't keep up with him,
Right.
Just kind of tells you about his work ethic and what he brings.
And like you said, he came along very, very fast. And like I said, I think he was actually training with you and Gene a little bit before he actually came to Gold Dragon, right? He kind of started getting going and had a couple fights before he even came here to Gold Dragon. And so that's kind of how we got to know Dennis, is when he started coming to Gold Dragon and started just working with some different guys and I guess getting some, some other work in and stuff. And that's when Josh started cornering Dennis. Right. And at the time, though, you guys were all kind of still working with him and stuff. So, like, I think you guys kind of reconnected through cornering Dennis and just going to the fights and supporting Dennis with his.
Well, I kind of got forced into cornering Dennis because, like, he just come in and beat me up every day. And then he said, hey, come to the fights, corner me.
He's like, hey, you're my coach.
You're my coach now.
You're my coach now. You're my coach
so
now.
I really didn't have a choice. But, so it actually, I started seeing Joey at the fights again, of course, being old friends and had been around the fight game a long time. We kind of reconnected and really kind of hit it off when we went to the Monroe BKFC because, first kind of out of town fight that we had in a long time where, we moved and was staying in hotels. Of course, we had to, cut the weight and all that stuff. So we got there early on Thursday or Friday. Can't remember, was it a Friday fight or a Saturday fight? I can't remember. But anyway, we rolled out, Thursday or Friday, got up there and, spent the day cutting weight. Of course, after we made the weight, while Dennis was resting, recovering and everything, me and Joey kind of was, going about, letting him have his space, get mentally prepared for the fight that he had coming up the next day. And me and Joey kind of just started discussing things, drinking coffee and just talking about life in general and what we have going on. And of course, my main goal at that time was coaching, here at Gold Dragon and had kind of brought me back into the game myself, just in coaching and wanting to train again and get myself in better shape and everything. So we started discussing things and, Joey being the, crazy guy, like you said, and I say, you ask Joey what he does for a living, a professional hustler. Being a professional hustler he is, he started talking about, being a fight promoter and something that he really wanted to do. And Joey has a way of, convincing you, even if something might seem far fetched at the time, but convincing you and talking with you and making you believe that, uh, this is possible, and so we kind of just started chit chatting about fight promoting and actually, we were talking about doing a show in Louisiana. He mentioned he wanted to do a show in Louisiana. Of course, I know Mr. Todd and Mr. Ricky Norris and stuff, from coaching and things like that, and fighting in Louisiana. So I said, well, I know, some members of the Louisiana Boxing Commission. Maybe we sit down and talk about the process of getting licensed and what you have to have as far as insurance. Why, of course, there's a lot goes into, you can't just say, hey, I'm promoting a fight and start it. There's a lot more goes into it. So we actually sat down. I guess that was the first Savage Fight meeting that I didn't even know what the name of the company was at the time, but it was just coffee with Mr. Ricky and Mr. Todd, and just talking about all the things that you have to be a fight promoter and put on a fight. And
well, so
I made the comment. I made the comment. I just said, hey Joey, if you need some help with that, holler at me. And he called me the next week. So.
Well, that's because I think 6-8 months before that I was working on it with another guy, and we sat down with the Mississippi Boxing Commission and got stuff, but I didn't know as far as the Louisiana and stuff, and then kind of was putting stuff together. But when we had a few meetings, and I'm like, man, look, here's the thing: I'm either gonna do it with you or I got to move forward. This is what plan is. And then whenever I talked to you, I don't even know, like you said, I don't even really know what happened, but
well, I was like,
it was
I said, hey man, you need some help. I was thinking, like grunt work, like I'll pick up tables and wrap hands and things like that to put some fighters on the card, little did I know, very next week, I think we went and sat down and met for lunch that following Friday. And I guess the rest is history. We jotted a bunch of stuff down on a piece of paper, and next thing you know, we had a logo and LLC and YouTube channels and Facebook.
I don't remember how the
Instagram
the name come up.
And you already had that figured out, so you kind of told me that.
What's up? Well, like we said, Joey's a wild man. He's a crazy man, but he does have a way of kind of making you believe in those goals and stuff. And so, like, but it takes an army, right? And so that's
what I was
me and you.
say.
We've been, like I said, we've been going around and we've been getting to promote this thing and kind of talking to the fighters. We almost got an easy job sometimes compared to like Josh. Josh been working hard behind the scene, grinding, putting together good fight cards,
right?
Getting these matches made and stuff. And
so that's what a lot of people don't realize either. Brian, behind the scene, he takes care of all the camera stuff. We went in, he gave me a list of what we need to buy. We bought all the camera stuff to do the pay-per-view and all. And then come in, we bought a cage and everything. But I think what we do, sit down with somebody and talk about a cage, and we're like, man, look, we ain't paying all that money. It's just, but I mean, things come together. And to be honest, I mean, bringing it back up, I mean, we've been blessed. I mean, things just fell in place and all of that. And to be honest, y'all say, your promotion, this is our promotion. We all gonna make it together. We all gonna grow it together, and that's the way it is. I don't want to do it without you guys.
Well, even the first fight you talk about, and I think we're gonna talk about a little bit about Savage Fights 1 here in a second. But even going back to the first fight, we had like 3 fights drop the week of, which we're not a week out yet. So, we have a great fight card, subject to change, right? Things happen, fighters, either get cold feet or, some of them have legitimate reasons, injuries, things like that.
It's the fight game.
But, after I felt like it was going good, and then that week of the fights, I told my wife, I said, I'm never doing this again. I'm done with this. I told Joey, I was like, we're done. Savage Fights is over. I said, you can't depend on another person to make money. And he said, and he kept, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. It's going to fall into place. And it did, because Savage Fights 1 absolutely rocked the building.
Better than what I think.
Better. Yeah, absolutely. Way better than I thought it was. Because I was like, well, y'all have fun. I'm not going.
Well, that's what's funny too, is you called me the other day. I was sitting at my desk. I was working on another project, and you called me, I guess, about one of these fights changed.
Yeah.
And immediately you're like, man, I wish you wouldn't have posted that, this and that. But man, I completely just started praying. I'm like, God, look, you got it. Everything's good. And man, we already had another opponent for him, And it's just, man, look, I've learned over the years in talking about being blessed is whenever I try to do things, it's messed up. But whenever God does it, it may not work out in the way I think it should, but it's gonna work out. And that's kind of what happened, like what you're talking about, Josh, in that first fight. Man, I could not have planned those fights to line out the way they did. Like that Seth Dardar fight. I mean, I
Yes.
wouldn't have. That wasn't even a planned fight.
Oh, I done gave up on that. I was actually when you called and said Seth and it was going to take the fight. Like I think I done gave up on that. Threw my phone on the table. I was outside washing my truck. I was just like, all right, we got to move on from it. Like it's not the matchup is not going to happen. And then I think Seth's coach reached out to me, and then I called Joey. I was like, well, that's still not going to happen. I just didn't think that we were going to put a fight of that caliber, which lived up to the hype. Obviously, Seth.
Oh yeah.
And they did a great job. But I did not think that it was going to live up to the hype at the time. But it did. It came together. It came together.
Well,
that was in my frustration point.
Right.
Where we had fights dropping out.
You said something about, man, we got to put on the. I'm like, we're not putting on the jiu-jitsu fight on this card. I said, me and you fixing to fight. That's all. Just stand up. And then I said, well, me and Dennis will fight. It didn't matter. We was putting a fight on.
Well, I'm glad y'all didn't fight.
Me too, because I'd have been.
It worked out good. It worked out good. And like I said, Joey, if you got a way of making people believe in your goals and your dreams and your visions, being able to be a part of that first show, that really had me sold on it. When we were kind of sitting there tearing down the cage after the show was over, man, I'm telling you, I think I told you multiple times that was like one of the best fights I've ever been to. And man, I'm not just saying that because it was something, I was able to be a different part of in a different aspect, usually a competitor or a coach. I've been going to fights for years,
right.
Since 07. 06, 07, I've been going to fights, and I'm telling you, that was one of the best fights I've ever been to, man. I don't think it could have went to any better.
But I think that's one of the things that we as a crew need to remember too is, and I'm sure y'all have too, tons of people coming up, talking about how good the show was. We had, the La Puente Inn, they provided the hotels for us up in Hattiesburg and all of that, and then different people, tables and stuff, and some of the sponsors, hey, look, we'll throw you, man, look, I'll pay for it. You got me a believer. I love the brand. I just had that conversation yesterday. They're like, no, we'll pay for the table. And it's just crazy. But in my mind, what we got to remember is, for me anyway, I didn't do it. We didn't do it. God provided it, allowed it. And then at the end of the day, we need to keep pushing forward and keep trying to put on those fights. Not just look at that dollar. We need a quality promotion and push quality.
Well, I think,
promotion.
and we talked about it, and literally this last time we sat down was on January 28th. Probably about an hour or two before the fights. Remember, we sat down and we kind of had a little, I think, a live video, just kind of promoting the fights, kind of getting people going and letting them know, hey, we're here. Come get your tickets. Come watch the fights. And that was the last time we sat down and talked about it. But that was one of the things that I thought was cool was, a couple fighters coming together to put on some fights, promote some fights, but having that background in the sport as a coach, as a competitor, all three of us, including Dennis as well.
Right.
Dennis is a huge part of this, but we're able to put on the fights that we feel like we can put on the fights that fans want to see.
Right.
And I think you see that, and some of the things that you did for the fighters, you were giving them sweatshirts, and that they had the sweatshirts and the hats, and they had all the tape and gauze, everything kind of put to the side. Like everybody had like their own little area in the locker rooms, like little name tags, just things like that. Man, it makes it that much easier on fight day to come in and compete for a promotion because all that stuff's already in line.
But how hard it was stressing over all this stuff as a fighter.
It was.
Right.
Making sure that you got everything, making sure that, as a coach, you ain't forgetting something.
Going back to what we just said, or what you just said, having fighter, I was telling somebody the other day, Savage Fight Promotions, four fighters by fighters, because you talk about the commentary team all the way to the people that were unlocking the cage and allowing fighters to go in and out of the cage and allowing personnel to. Everybody had fights. We had fighters in the back that were working, security and mitigate, and logistics and things like that. We had fighters commentating. We had fighters at the cage. Everything was all fighters, and so, like Joe said, as a fighter, what the fans want to see,
Right.
so I think that's what made it great as well. You know, like Johnny and Clay,
Right.
and, you know, you can't Randy, you can't forget to mention those guys. You know, the
Man,
guys
Ray
that
comes
like
in and
Ray came in
with
with
the
another
two
fighter.
minutes.
You know, Randy Hedrick showed up, you know, early that day to help. You know, I
Absolutely.
was stressed out. I'm trying to get things set up. You know, Mr. Scotty came in and helped out. So, you know, shout out to Scotty Laurie. You know, he came in when
Oh, yeah.
we needed him, and he just showed up with a bag and said, "You need help?" And absolutely, yes, sir. And so, one of the best in the business right
And
there.
I think
as
you
well.
told me like I think we got it, and luckily, I mean, just blessed. He
Yes,
just showed
yes,
up.
yes,
You know?
showed up. So,
Real quick though, I
doubt
want to
it's
kind of run through that card, some of the fights that stand out to you guys. You know,
Man, that was a
it was I know it's been
awesome
yeah.
card.
Will Williams defeated Jariah Tolbert via split decision. You know, these guys came out, they were banging, they were throwing hard leather from the get go. I remember Will Williams throwing some heavy punches. Jariah, he was kind of working the ground game, a real good fight. And we were actually we got to see I think it was Jariah on the last card with Eric Grant.
Yeah,
At Eric Grant's card, he was
Johnny
able to
and
get a
Eric's
win. So
card, yeah, great.
so was
win,
able to
looked
see
great.
yeah, look
So you
good.
show how good he is, and then you talk, you know, you show how good Will was, you know,
Yeah.
how good Will
Yeah,
is
what's
fighting
that-
out of
what's
the
that
team.
called? Was it Siege?
Yeah.
It's Siege Promotion. Siege.
So we also had Destin Guidry and Wilbur Johnson. Destin was another guy that fought on that card.
Yes.
It wasn't his night that night, but he fought a juggernaut in Cade Miles. But
Yes.
Destin, he's a great guy. So
I tell
we'd love
you,
to have him
one
back.
thing about
Man,
Destin
come-
is,
yeah.
you know, you put these fights on and you put these fights on and you just put savage fight. Oh, we have a show, okay? You're gonna get messages at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Hey boss, you know, I want to fight. You know, hey man, give me, you know, I want to fight. I want to fight. I'll fight anyway, anytime. And then, you know, you talk to people and you know, and you're like, okay, where do you train at? I don't train anywhere. I'm a street fighter. I'm 44 and 0. You know, you get all this crazy stuff, and then, you know, so Destin, he was very persistent. I actually told him, you know, I said, hey man, you know, go find you a gym to train at, and you know, and maybe we'll get you on the next card. He's very persistent. Hey, you have any openings? Yeah, yeah. So we actually had, you know, a guy that was going to be making his debut,
Right.
and on the card. And so I said, well, you got two debut guys, really train a whole lot, you know, don't have, you know, years of experience. And, you know, this might work. This might work. And so contacted Destin. I said, hey, man, look, you got to get your blood work. You got to do this. You got to do that. Dude went and got it done that day. You talk about want to fight.
Yeah.
He went and got it done that day. So anyways, you know, long story short, we moved to the week before the show. And the debut guy that we had him lined up to fight actually pulled out. Okay, so he didn't get his blood work done. So I called Destin, hey man, look, I apologize. I'm trying to find a replacement. Destin said, I don't care who it is. I want to fight. I don't
Yeah.
care what weight. I don't care who it
Weight,
is. Like, I want to fight. I've trained, been training, been working. Like, I want to fight. And sure enough, you know, we wound up finding the
Wilbur
Alabama
Johnson.
Wilbur
Yeah.
Johnson, who I called a week
Brock
before
Weavers.
out of Brock Weaver's gym.
He had another cool interaction with Wilbur. You know, like Wilbur,
Yeah.
he was helping Wilbur
Yeah,
cut weight
man.
throughout the week.
Yeah,
Another good
Wilbur,
dude showed up.
great guy,
Showed up to the
family
weigh-in.
guy,
Showed
all
up
his
to the weigh-ins
family.
with his two sons. So
Jam up, but
yeah.
yeah, and so like you said, another fight that just kind of fell into place. Two great guys
Well,
that just, you know, wanted to fight. They just
Yeah.
wanted to fight,
Right.
and so
we had Lawson Dardar came in, fought Trey Hurd. Trey Hurd, D1
Yeah.
athlete. I think
Way bigger than
if I remember right, I think he played football for Alabama, right? We ended up helping Trey Hurd, another great guy. We helped him cut weight that night. Lawson Dardar, brother of Seth Dardar, who 6-0 amateur, the top 135ers in the
He ranked
area
number
now.
one,
Ranked
I
number
think.
one in the
Mississippi.
state of Louisiana and Mississippi. So Seth Dardar, congrats on the latest win.
Yes.
So Lawson came in, got a big win by rear naked choke. We had Smitty, Adrian Smith from here in Gold Dragon. He came in. Him and Darius Brooks put on an excellent kickboxing
another
exhibition.
fight. You know, another fight that just came
And
together.
then he called me
you
in on
know.
last minute.
Yeah, I called Smitty, I think Thursday night before the show. I was like, hey, man, you want to kickbox? And he's
We was
like,
looking for a
"Absolutely."
55,
Yeah,
right?
we were looking for
55
a
or 65. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, call Smitty. Sure enough,
So he came in.
no hesitation.
That was
And
a great fight.
of course, you got to give it to Darren's
Taking a fight.
because Darren's took the fight. He was the same way. You know, he said,
Yeah.
man, you know, I'll kickbox whoever. You know,
Yeah,
as long as they're
right.
around the same weight. So you know, two extremely athletic, fantastic strikers coming from two good gyms, you know, with Gold Dragon, where Smitty's coming out of, Adrian Smith coming out of, and then you have you know, Darren Brooks coming out of T-Web MMA. You know, I mean,
Very
it's two
experienced guy.
two great experienced guys, and they put on a great show, great fight.
Well, going back though, real quick, I like the Lawson and the Trey Hurd fight. Me coming from fighting at 135, dropping from 170, you know, 175, you got to make weight. If you fight for Savage fights, you got to make weight. That's one of the things that drives me crazy about fighters is if you want to fight, don't fight at that weight class if you can't make it. And so you got your opponent sitting there putting in all this time, putting in all this effort to make weight and all of that. I think we was there until 1 o'clock that morning trying to make sure he's on weight, you know. And I mean, it's just one of those things. If
He
you
came in a
wanna
little
fight-
heavy, but he put in the work
Yeah,
and got it done.
He did.
He put in the work and got it
he
done. So you
good.
got into, you
And
gotta
that
give
was,
some credit.
you know, first experience cutting
Yeah,
weight.
he did
Sometimes
it.
it's hard.
Good,
And,
big athlete. You know, and and of course, you know, he apologized for that. But
No,
like
he
you said,
did, and he was very,
he got gritty and made the way.
And he was very, very, I mean, very humble. I mean, he was nice about it, you know, cool about it. But one of the things is we definitely gotta stay focused, and if you want to take the fight, make sure you make the weight. You know.
Yeah. Kind of rounding off the card, we had another kickboxing exhibition. Seth Dardar and Jordan Lauren. Another banger, man. It was a
That
great
was a
fight.
great fight.
I tell you, you know, you talk about what Savage Fights is and what we want it to be. You know, we've talked a lot about Seth, but Jordan Lauren,
Freaking dog.
straight savage.
Jordan
Yes.
Lauren, the dog.
So Jordan, you know, and kind of moving. I know we've got to get to the next card, but Jordan actually stepped up, took a fight with another guy that had dropped out on like 2 weeks' notice, week and a half notice, right? And so then, you know, so Jordan starts training for an MMA fight at 145 pounds, which is up a weight class than what he usually fights at. So he was already going to go up a weight class and fight a guy in MMA. And so he's grinding, he's training. Well, all of a sudden that guy calls, he's injured, you know, and so now we're left without a fight with Jordan. And I tell you, I called him and I said, hey man, you know, would you be interested in doing a jiu-jitsu match, kickboxing match, you know? And he was just like, yeah, man, whatever. But then he actually, you know, calls me back and he says, hey man, I want to do a kickboxing exhibition. You know, I'd rather do kickboxing. He said, my fans paid to see me fight.
Right.
And he said, and that's what, you know, that's what I want to do. That's what I've been working on. And, you know, and then the fight with Seth, of course, you know, we talked about that already. The fight with Seth kind of came together, and you talk about two of the most top talent. I mean, you talk about blessed. When we wrote that fight down, I was just like, well, I guess Joey is right. We're blessed, you know, and it came together because we were blessed to have two of the top prospects in the region, you know, kickboxing on our show, and neither one of them backed down. Like they were both like within a minute, you know, they're like, yes, I got it, I'll take it. You know, I want that fight. You know,
So they put on a good show for the Savage Fights fans that night, and then as advertised, they ended up competing a couple weeks ago for Gulf Coast MMA, an awesome MMA fight. So I think Seth edged him out in decision, right?
Right.
I think you were there that night, so you were able to watch. Seth they ended up getting the edge that night in MMA, but again, Jordan Lauren's a dog. Seth Dardar, you know, he's a dog, so it's always good when you're going to put two guys like that together. Daniel Cooper coming out of ATT Atlanta, trained by Will Brooks, came in and I think he was like a blue belt and ended up submitting BB Bradford, who's a brown belt, or Larry Bradford, come out, was able to finish him with an arm triangle in the second round. So that was a good performance.
Impressive. Yeah,
Daniel Cooper, super nice guy.
yeah, I almost saw it when Daniel started reaching out to me. You know, you get those weird messages on your social media that says "sir" and they say "sir" every time. Well, Daniel, you know, everything he was messaging said that, you know, sir. I started thinking I was talking to a robot or something, you know, because he put "sir" after everything that he said. And you know, but no, he was not a robot. He was the real deal. He came in shape, on weight,
Physical
and
specimen, man. I mean,
and
he
he
was
was,
built like a Greek guy. And I remember he
very
came to the
respectful.
super respectful. He came to the weigh-ins and he was like complimenting me on my physique, and I'm like, God dang, dude. I was like, you're a freaking monster, man. Like, come on, you know. But it was real nice guy. Like you said, he was just so polite. You know, he was very
That made you feel good.
Very, oh yeah, it did.
He
It
did
did.
compliment
Coming
me.
from a guy. Yeah, compliment. Well,
He complimented you.
like, nah, so Daniel Cooper, I hope we can get him back on another car in the future. We had a banger between Nakia Brown and Antoine
Man.
Chaput. Antoine Chaput coming down from Canada, taking on Nakia Brown at his debut. Nakia's already knocked off two more wins since that date. So he's 3-0 as a pro now. This was his pro debut. He won the split decision that night. That was an awesome fight. Could have went either way.
Come out to fight.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Chaput came all the way down from Canada. He was also making his pro debut. So two just highly touted prospects from
and
there.
Chaput has actually fought since then as well and won as well.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. So
he
that
came
was
back
one
and
fight
bounced
So
that.
that shows that neither one fought. Nobody that. Both were great fighters. Both
Oh yeah,
were,
yeah.
But that was one fight that I thought was pretty cool. So those guys went out, put on a good show. The decision could have went either way. It was a very close fight. So
awesome
Joey
fight.
and Josh made the decision to give both fighters their win bonus. So I thought that was pretty cool because when you go into a sport like MMA, you got to think about it. There's just as many ways to lose as there is to win.
Right.
Okay, and so when
Well,
you
you
get a
can't
guys
follow-
and
yeah.
really, but a fight like that, the real winners, the fans, because
Oh,
these guys came out, they put an awesome show on. Like I said, it could have went either way. I was cage side. These guys were both throwing heavy
Oh, yeah.
shots. They were both trying to implement their game
Awesome.
plan. So I thought it was an awesome.
But that's
fight.
what we paid them guys to do. And so when they come on, we need them. And when they come on
Absolutely.
and put on a show
Yeah.
like that, we got to take care of them. And I mean, like you said, the fans won. So at the end of the day, those are the kind of fights we want. I mean, it could have went either way. You got to reward both of them. I believe.
So we had the co-main was Drew Fickett coming off a few layoff. UFC vet coming in. He's taking on the young and upcoming prospect Mark Colker. Drew Fickett was able to get the rear naked choke in the second round. Another great fight.
And Coker holds the belt for AKA, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so pretty top prospect that coming out of Port City MMA. Drew Fickett, we got him coming back for another fight. He's going to be taking on Tyler Hill May 13th. So I think that's going to be another great fight. I'll tell you, Drew, man, he's slick. He's slick. If you give it up, you give him 1 inch, he's going to take a mile. So he's slick.
The old veteran.
And then I think we've talked about it several times on camera. We was able to go and talk to Duke a couple weeks ago at his gym in NOLA MMA. Yeah, man, a few words, but he kind of expresses himself in that ring, and he did so that night. He was taking on Cub Hawkins, another top prospect coming out of I think Chicago, right? Is that where Cub's
Chicago,
from?
Milwaukee.
Yeah. So two heavy-handed, just real skilled strikers coming in for our debut Savage boxing rule set, and they did not disappoint. Duke was able to get the TKO in round 3. But Cub had his moments in that fight as well. So both those guys
back and forth. Like I think Ray said in the interview, a literal Rocky moment. It was a movie.
Cub came out, dropped him I think 2 times in the first round, and then Duke started kind of getting a little momentum built up towards the end of the second round and was able to get the finish. I believe in the third round.
Once in the second.
Yeah, towards the end, and then was able to get the finish in the third.
But I don't think Cub's lost since he fought Duke. If I'm thinking right.
I think
he was undefeated going into that fight.
I think he's 1-1 since that fight. Yeah, he's 2-0 in bare knuckle competition. But he fought last weekend.
He fought
MMA and he won. It was his first submission win of his career. So congrats on that, Cub. If you're watching, we're looking forward to seeing you compete again.
Congrats on the submission.
Looking forward to seeing you compete. And so that kind of brings us to May 13th. We're a little over 2 weeks. We're a little over 2 weeks away. A lot of big fights on this card. A lot of fights to look forward to. We got
1 week, or 2 weeks.
2
2 weeks from weigh-in. So, like Joey said, you better make weight, guys.
Don't be eating them donuts.
Yeah. So real quick before we wind it down, we can kind of run through the cards, see what we got. And like I said, as always, Josh kind of mentioned it before. Cards always subject to change. It's the fight game, so you never know what to expect. But these are the ones that we got down right now. We got Vernell Roberts going to be taking on Mike Lassard at 125. That's going to be an amateur fight. Caleb Lee is going to be taking on Austin Ingram, 150-pound catch weight fight.
Yes.
Which he just fought a couple weeks ago. Austin did.
Yeah, no, I think he was able to get a TKO finish for Bayou Fighting.
Yeah,
for
GCM.
Yeah, and he actually impressive. I mean, he come back from getting rocked in that first round. And I was like, man, this ain't. And he come back.
He's coming from a good gym.
Yeah,
It should be a good fight. Caleb Lee coming in from Gracie United Team JUCO,
Another good kid.
training under David Gordon, who's going to be on later in the card. Cody Cathy coming from Gold Dragon will be taking on Kepley Wheat Witt in a 170-pound amateur fight. You got Trey Honor coming out of NOLA MMA, training under Ray Lopez, going to be taking on Ryder Barnes. Darius Scott, another Team JUCO guy, Gracie United guy, coming in. He's training under Chris Pham. He's going to be taking on Ryan Davis.
So even those names that you did, I mean, they're all bangers.
Yeah, a lot of good fights. A lot of good fights.
wrestlers,
Cody, the Polish Grizzly,
we had on
who we had on earlier. He's going to be taking on Kevin Turner in a kickboxing exhibition heavyweight fight. K. Campese, another Gold Dragon guy, going to be taking on Owen Sears, a guy from Cajun Cowboy. The Cajun Cowboy Campese. Going to be taking on Owen Sears, another NOLA MMA guy training under Ray Lopez. Those guys are always going to come game. So I'm looking forward to seeing him, Trey, as well as dude competing on the card. We got a veteran, Ray Trujillo, coming in.
Both of them better. Mike Barnett's
Mike's got like 16 or so fights as well.
You got probably 75 fights between the two of those guys combined.
So Mike Barnett, as I was doing some research the last couple of weeks trying to get caught up on some of these guys, Mike Barnett, a Mobile police officer.
Oh yeah.
And so he's coming in. So much respect to him,
Appreciate that,
serving the public, and he's also going to come out and fight for us on May 13th. So looking forward to that. He actually has 9 TKOs. So heavy-handed guy comes in. Always looking for the finish. So I'm looking forward to that.
We actually got an interview with him tomorrow over at Fort City.
Well, you got Ray. Ray is extremely experienced. We got to see him fight live. I've watched him fight live many times. He
stays active.
Very active.
Stays very active. Travels around. He stays in the region and fights a lot. But he's been fighting forever. How many fights do you have him down for?
About 60.
Yeah, 60
fights.
60 fights. Maybe one of the most experienced besides Drew. He's probably the most experienced guy on and Seth, the most experienced guy on the card. But I tell you, another Christian man. Obviously, Christian run organization, but a Christian man always tries to glorify God every time he is going out there to compete. And he had a big win. Had a big win last weekend, or was it last weekend BFC, or maybe the weekend before? He had a big win over there at BFC against another great competitor. So Ray's coming in. Obviously, he's well experienced, well traveled, but he's no pushover. He's coming in to fight, and I'm really excited about that.
And it's wild to think he's 41 years old and still competing as much.
Great
as
shape,
and still in good shape.
Yeah, awesome shape, excellent shape.
And I'm still in shape.
Like I said, to travel around and stay as active as he is, he's got to be taking care of his body, be doing the right things, making the right choices outside of the cage, to be able to compete and stay healthy like he does. I think at one point when I was looking back, he fought 9 times in 2012, I believe. That's a lot of fights. That's a lot of fights.
I think he's fought 9 times since we signed his fight.
Probably so. Yeah.
We got so keeping on up, heading up the card. We got Tyler Zombie Hill coming out of ATT D'Iberville, a training partner of the newly crowned BKFC heavyweight champ Alan Belcher.
Right.
So looking forward to him. He's a firefighter with the city of Long Beach.
Firefighters.
So
great guy.
Which man, I'm excited about that fight because if you talk to Drew, I talk to Drew pretty regularly, and he wants to stand up, and Tyler's going, willing to.
I'm sure Tyler will oblige to that.
But and that's what Drew said his last fight. But if you mess up, slip up, he's gonna take advantage of it. He's just got that much experience.
Well, you got Tyler Hill. He's gonna be taking on Drew, the Master Fickett, who's gonna be returning after his big win against Mark Coker. And I think an underestimated stat, me and Josh were talking about it a little earlier this week. You got Drew Fickett. He's coming in. He's got 43 wins, 31 of them by submission.
Right.
He's got 17 rear naked choke finishes. 17. He had 4 in the UFC.
Yeah.
So 17 rear naked chokes. So if he slips up and gets your back, I think you're looking at a matchup where it's just a classic striker versus grappler style of matchup, and it's really going to be who comes out and imposes their will.
Oh yeah.
When that bell rings, you can say you want to do this or want to do that, but when that bell rings, you're looking to try to win. And so,
right.
It's the path of least resistance. That's kind of always my motto.
And he's got a lot of fights. I mean, so he's seen a bunch of different
Absolutely.
styles, bunch of different techniques.
Well, like you said, he's got experience on his side. Tyler probably has youth on his side.
Right.
Tyler's a big guy in great shape. He's coming to bang.
Oh yeah.
So we got David Gordon, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's coming in representing Team JUCAL, Gracie United. He's actually a gym owner. He's only 25 years old, I think.
Yes,
He's
accomplished
1-0 as
a
a
lot.
pro.
Man,
And he's had his gym open for several years now. So a young guy, but obviously,
And they
well
just
put
up and
together.
slide to him.
Yeah, well put together to be able to have, be a gym owner. And, much respect to David Gordon for what he's been able to accomplish at such a young age. He's going to be taking on another young guy, Ben Bluen, coming in. The showboat, Ben the showboat. So we were able to talk to him, man. I really enjoyed the conversation we had with him over at West Bank Social Club, training under Gary Angelette. That's going to be two good guys coming in, two young prospects coming in, looking to make a mark in the
I
sport.
mean, it's hard not to want to see that fight. David is undefeated as an amateur, undefeated as a pro. He's looking to fight more this year. And then Ben, Ben's always down to bang, down to.
It's gonna come down to, in my opinion, it's gonna come down to technique versus just grit in your face. Not saying that David is not gritty, because I know he's a gritty, tough guy, but you just, you look at styles, and you look at, when you're putting these fights together, you look at styles and you try to find the best matchups. But David is just so technical. I mean, he's just technically,
Both these guys,
he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's
Uses
very
everything.
technical, uses all his tools, has a lot of tools in his tool belt that he uses. And Ben has that as well, but Ben has that forward pressure, that in your face, immovable object, type fighting style, where he just puts that pressure, and has the makings to be just an absolutely juggernaut of a fight.
Oh yeah.
well, like you said, Ben Bluen, he's a aggressive guy. He likes to come forward. They're both very skilled on the ground. Obviously, David Gordon with his black belt in jiu-jitsu. I believe Ben Bluen is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a brown belt in judo as well. He's been training in judo since at a very young age.
Right.
But they have two styles that, like you said, it's going to clash. David Gordon likes to come out. He's really good. I've always been impressed with how David Gordon uses his reach and uses his length. You see a lot of tall fighters not use their length and reach. David's able to put that together real well. And then you got Ben Bluen, a guy that's just going to come in. He's going to pressure. He's going to try, like he told us, he wants to put on a show for the fans. And
I've seen
that's kind of his
several
goal.
fights. He hasn't disappointed any.
No.
Even
Fans
his
are
very
encouraged.
first fight that I seen, he hasn't disappointed. So I'm looking forward to these Savage boxing fights, but I mean, still the MMA, pro MMA matches, and actually all of them, but they're all going to be pretty exciting.
Absolutely,
what I'm
three
looking
great MMA bouts. So moving on to our Savage boxing portion of the the show, I guess just Joey's getting excited over there.
So
moving
before we
away.
get into it, let's talk about the Savage boxing rule set just a little bit. So I know you guys, if you've been keeping up with the videos, you hear that term used. We talked about it when we were interviewing Duke. We mentioned the term, but just kind of the rule set is basically all stand up, 4-ounce gloves, a 5-round, 2-minute format. We have an overtime round. Is that round, that 6th round? Is it going to be winner take all pretty much?
So we just do that. We signed in the contract so that we don't have a decision. And then I mean you can't control everything, but that's what we shoot for. Kind of looked at the BKFC rules and how some places don't allow it and stuff like that, but they allow MMA. Well, you could get the gloves in there with smaller and all of that, but also as we seen that last fight, man, if you would have put Cub and Duke in the bare knuckle fight, they'd have been all cut up after that fight, and none of them took stitches after that fight. I mean, but
hands were good.
Yeah, but still big shots and I mean, I enjoy it. I love the stand up. I love it was all action,
Right.
And that's the thing. They both got a good bonus. They come in there and put on a show, didn't disappoint, and that's what I'm pushing towards this Savage boxing, and that's where I come in and where what I'm looking to push.
Yeah.
Well, so like you said, action, nonstop action with the short rounds. That
People are going to push the
2-minute
pace.
round, you're able to push a heavier pace, and then not only that, like you said, a round 6 winner take all. If it goes to a draw, that gives you more initiative. Hey, look, I want to finish this fight early. I don't want it to go to a decision if it, because in case we go to a draw, I got to fight a whole other round.
Right.
So you're trying to get that, you're trying to get in there, get the guy out of there, and so it's just a great format.
And that's what the fans pay for. They want to see action. They don't want to see, and I mean, anybody that watches fight understands somebody get just.
And so, and as weird as it sounds, and I think we mentioned it when we were talking with Ray Lopez the other night, as weird as it sounds in a sport where basically they're getting paid to go in there and engage in combat, you have to protect these fighters to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what, adding the gloves, kind of adds to the round, it protects the hands. I mean, obviously these are the money makers for the fighters,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It cuts down on the cuts, or I say it cuts down on the cuts. Obviously it's gonna
Yeah, I don't want to
help the fighters.
roll with you.
It's going to keep the fighters from getting cut as bad and stuff. So, and that's, because somebody's got to protect these fighters almost from themselves sometimes, because they're going to go out, they're going to leave, they're going to go out on their shield, they're going to leave it all out there. Fighters going to fight their butts off. So,
fighters going to fight.
If we can
look at the KFC guys, they look like they age a lot quicker. I mean,
yeah.
they just.
But if you could put a rule set out there that protects them, and that's why there's rules in every type of competition, including MMA, jiu-jitsu, all these different types of combat formats. There's rules for a reason to try to protect the fighter. So I like your mindset, and I like the way you're going out with it. Kicking off our Savage Boxing portion of the card, you're going to have Cub Hawkins taking on Ryan Kelly. Again, Cub Hawkins, you've seen him go to battle with Duke Sensley. But the thing that wasn't mentioned, that we didn't really talk about a whole lot, that fight was at 185. Cub's coming in
175. He weighed on the scale at 175.
And that's what he walks around at.
Yeah.
So we got him competing at 170 pounds this time. So he's kind of coming in more at his natural weight. I think it's going to be a little bit better for him coming in. Fighting more
I thought the scale was broke. He stepped on the scale, and I'm like, this was supposed to be 185,
Well, I didn't understand because I'm like, man, you want me to fly you in earlier so that you could cut some weight? He's like, no, I'm good. Which I didn't get it. I'm like, okay, he just cuts weight easy.
Just make sure I get that per diem.
So he's going to be taking on a tough guy out of his coming in with Drew Fickett, Seth Brzezinski, 7-4, Ryan Kelly coming in. So some boys got about 3 guys coming in from Arizona going to be competing on the card. So looking forward to those guys coming in. So that's going to be the co-main.
Team Scrub
coming in. And then, of course, in our main event, we're going to have Duke the Nuke Sensley for the second time. Main event, number 7 in bare knuckle fighting in the world. So Duke the Nuke Sensley coming in, competing again against Seth Brzezinski, which is a UFC vet coming in, a couple of years off. But
everybody that's been following Savage Fights came to the first show. We all know who Duke is. Anybody's been keeping up with BKFC, you know who Duke is. Duke, he is what he is. He's a juggernaut. He's a monster. He's a take on anybody, anytime. You've had a great interview with him. But you talk about Seth Brzezinski, these old school MMA fans, Ultimate Fighter fans and things like that. You kind of go back and Seth Brzezinski's been around the block. He's been around the block. When I saw that name pop up, it was kind of like when Drew called. When Drew messaged me on Facebook, I dropped everything I was doing and messaged Joey that night. I'm like, hey man, Drew Fickett just messaged me. Really an honor. He wants to be a part of our show, and now he's bringing Seth Brzezinski, another guy that when I was fighting and training, I grew up watching. Watching him on the Ultimate Fighter, watching him fight in UFC. Like we said, well traveled.
He's been
how many fights does he have?
about 30.
Yeah, 30 something.
But he's fought in other sports.
Yeah, and he's fought different sports. Bare knuckle.
Yeah, he's fought. He competed in Lethway against the open weight world champ. He in the UFC, when he fought in the UFC, he fought, and I believe he beat Leon Edwards. I had to look back at the record, but I got some. He competed against Brad Tavares. Some really, really good guys in the UFC.
I think not to interrupt. I think kind of just talking about this fight in general. I think what's going to be very interesting to see in this fight is we know Duke's size. Like we know how big Duke is. He's been fighting a lot of guys. Here locally and things like that. He fights at 185 pounds. Y'all interviewed him. He's fought at 170 all the way up to 205. I seen him fight 3 different weight classes. Personally, I watched him fight. At 205 one night. But you see on a regional level, and Joe can kind of speak for this. you know, you don't see those true 185ers, like those guys that have that true 185 build or true 170 build where you have the height and everything. You know, I talk to our guys all the time. You know, there's guys in our gym that has good builds, but their height isn't correct for the weight class.
Right.
You talk about Seth, and you're talking about two guys that are 6'3", 6'4".
Big
You know,
guys, yeah.
when you know, talk about Duke, you know, he's listed, what he say, was 6'3", 6'4".
6'3",
I think he's listed at
Seth as
6'3".
well.
I think Duke is listed at 6'3" because when him and Dennis fought, Dennis tried to say he was
Yeah,
5'11",
he was-
and Duke said he was 6'3". And I saw the height difference. I said, "What are y'all lying? One of y'all lying. Either
Yeah.
Duke's taller than he is, or you're shorter than what you're saying you are. But one of
Right.
y'all are lying because I can take measurements." But Seth's a big guy coming in.
Oh,
He's going to be 6'3", 6'4".
gonna be
He's going to be a true 185 pounder, cutting down. He's going to put the weight back on. Once again, like we talked about, he's very well traveled. He's cut weight. He's fought in different promotions, and you know, he's a professional. He's a professional fighter. You know, he's made a career out of it, not just, you know, starting to get it. He's made a career out of it.
Right.
And so that's where he's at. And so he not only is he going to make the 185 mark, he's going to put the weight back on. He's going to be a big guy. So we're going to see how Duke can react to that, fighting someone not only his own size, you know, height, but you know, they're going to be two big guys.
But he's also a little bit older too, and you're gonna see how that weight cut does.
Right.
So I mean, you know as well as I know, as you get older, that weight cut's a little bit harder.
Sure,
you know?
absolutely.
And so we'll see on that. You know, so I'm pretty interesting in that. I mean, it's gonna be an awesome fight, like you said, both big guys.
Yeah, two big guys getting
Um,
after it.
Two big guys, like I said, and but coming in, they're going to be similar statures, I think. You know, both of them pretty tall, big
Yeah,
body guys.
big
So it's going to be interesting. I've always been impressed with Duke's ability to, even though he's a tall guy, fighting on the inside. I think he's got an innate ability to be able to fight on the inside and throw those long
you know,
arms and short.
he really likes
has,
it
you know, he
inside.
likes that.
He's,
But he can get inside, and that guy's head's underneath him. He likes to throw those uppercuts inside. You know, so that's what I said. That's what I think is so interesting is because the height is going to be, you know, the same here in this match,
Right.
or close to the same. You know, as if you look at it on paper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we might get in there, and I'll say one of y'all's lying again.
So we got to move forward though. We got running out of time, but we need to talk about upcoming and
Yep, that's the fight card, May 13th, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Lake Terrace Convention Center, One Convention Center Plaza. Come check it out. We got a banging fight card. We're gonna kind of close. We're gonna talk about some of the goals that we have. I know we got some upcoming fights later on this year that you kind of wanted to mention. Some different plans that you have, Joey, kind of going forward. I think later on this year we're gonna be in Biloxi. I think in September, correct?
yes, September 9th.
Okay.
We'll be in Biloxi, and we're looking at another venue in between there and Christmas.
Okay.
So
A lot of action from Savage Fights later on, and I think when the fighters come out and they fight from Savage Fights, they deserve to have somebody that's going to be representing them, speaking
yeah.
about them, and actually has an idea of who they are, you know. And so that's kind of like my big thing is when they come in, and we're going to come in, we're going to talk about some of these guys that's going to be on this card. I want to know about them.
Oh, yeah.
I want to know what their records are. I want to know if they've competed against each other previously, or if there's other guys on the cards that have competed against each other. I want to know what their backgrounds are.
right.
And I want to know where they're from, you know, like what do they do for a living? I mean, there's so many different aspects of these guys' lives other than just that 15 minutes that you see them in a cage, you know. So
Right.
I think that's what's cool about my job. And like I said, you know, I do spend a lot of time trying to do research, but I feel like, you know, that I'm doing those guys justice by doing so.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and I enjoy it too. I'm a fight fan, so being
Oh,
able to
yeah.
go out and talk to these guys like Duke and Ben and David and some of these other guys that we've been able to go out and interview, man, that's a privilege for my, you know.
But I think that's
got
one
a
of the
cool
things
job,
you
so
do
I
for them.
appreciate
You know?
that.
They're fighting, obviously. They enjoy it, but they want to get paid. They want to be
Absolutely.
able to live out. And by you doing that, you're promoting a lot of them and getting their information out there and all, which is great. And I also want to thank Brian. I mean, he's behind the scenes, running all the cameras,
Yeah.
doing all editing all the videos.
Telling us.
He telling us hurry up constantly.
So, like I said, we're getting better at this. Just a few
So-
rednecks in here trying to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
man,
A few rednecks, but
it's exciting. I'm sorry.
Solid.
yeah, Joey did come into a podcast and not silence this morning. I'm surprised it ain't rain yet.
I thought it
Yeah.
did.
Before we started this podcast, he sold about 3 containers, a pallet of pomade.
Professional hustle.
Yeah. So,
Nice.
but anyways, we're gonna kind of close it down, guys. Again, I enjoyed it. Brian's been in the background saying 10 minutes for the past like 45 minutes. You know, so we kind of had a time frame in mind. So, but anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed the talk.
Buy
Again,
tickets on Savage Fight Promotions on Facebook.
You better get them now.
Yeah. So most of this content is leaving Facebook, going to YouTube. So go to the YouTube channel and subscribe.
Savage Fight Promotions. Look us up on YouTube.
I think it's different. Is it underscore or something?
No, just Savage Fight Promotions. All SFP capital.
Okay.
And you should be able to find the link to that.
Yeah, you'll see our logo.
It'll have the logo as the picture.
We'll have merchandise for the first time at the event. I know a lot of people have been messaging us, calling us about
hats, shirts, things like that.
Trying to get that.
Working on a lot of things.
Yeah, and then if you want to fight, message the Facebook page, Joe or Josh.
But back to tickets. If they want table seats, they better get them, right?
Yeah, we're running out of front row. I think we got 4 or 5 tables left in front row. We got quite a few second row.
I don't think we had that many.
No,
I don't think we had that many.
It sold some last.
We sold a lot. So if you want table seats, you better get with us within the next couple of days.
Yeah,
because
I'm not sure how many. Whatever we have left will be sold at the door, but I'm not sure how many general admission tickets.
You're probably not getting a front row table seat at the door. You better order.
Yeah,
you better buy ahead.
So again, come out May 13th, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Lake Terrace Center, 1 Convention Center Plaza. Last time we talked, I didn't really have the address, so I wanted to make sure to throw that out there. We got a banging card. We, like I said, come out. These guys put together a good show. Y'all come out and support them. Support all the fighters. And again, appreciate you guys.
Man, excited.
Yeah, feel like John Moran. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats.